This video will serve as a shout out for Ali McForever. I was introduced to Ali by Patrick over on the Robot Underground channel, and typically Patrick's dealing with videos about subwoofers and audio in general by re-uploading one of Ali McForever's videos. But at the time that I actually covered the George Orwell 1984 and Animal Farm videos that she made, I had no idea who she actually was. Thanks to Divergent Droid, who dug out the links to her YouTube channel, I can now actually present her on her own channel, so you can go and subscribe to Ali McForever. So with that, I'll pass across so you can watch one of her videos. She has in, I don't know if it's this video, but other videos that she's produced, explained that the general witch hunt towards women who are pregnant and taking painkillers is actually as a direct result of the outspoken nature of autistic women, and she is one of them. So for that reason, I found her videos extremely addictive, not because she's autistic, but because of her pattern recognition and outspoken nature and brutal honesty. So I'm pretty sure that all of my subscribers will enjoy a lot of Ali McForever's videos, and I think she's definitely worthy of a shout out. So I will be putting a link to Ali McForever's video in the comment section of this video, so you can pop along to her video and let her know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, with a polite comment that does not immediately get removed by the YouTube algorithmic bots or indeed Ali herself. So be polite, be kind, and just let her know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a nice comment. With that, I will play out a bit of her video called The Illusory Truth Effect.
Simple psychological pattern that affects all of us. It's called the illusory truth effect, which is a fancy academic way of saying repetition works really well. When you hear a claim made again and again, especially if it's made by different people at the same time, your brain is more likely to trust and believe that statement, whether or not it's true, whether or not it's absurd and obviously not true. If you hear it enough, you start to accept it. In 1977, they got students to read short, plausible statements. Each student came in 3 times, 3 weeks apart. Some statements were repeated across the multiple sessions, others were not. At the end, they asked the students to rate which statements they believed were most true. The statements that had been repeated quietly and strategically throughout this process were the ones the students ranked as most true. Any statements that were introduced as new later in the process, the students were suspicious of, but they didn't require proof or extra facts. It was the repetition alone that moved these ratings. This is a really important study. It proves the brain is processing repeated statements more easily. What these psychologists found in the context of their behavior study can be corroborated with findings from neuroscience and systems thinking as well. Energy saving is a core basic biological rule for your brain. Your brain is an energy-hungry organ. There is a finite bandwidth with what you can do in any 24 hours. Your brain consumes 20% of your energy. It has to keep costs down. You can't process every sound, every sight, every sentence at full critical depth. Your attention narrows the funnel. When you must respond quickly, shortcuts, I've heard this already somewhere, will always beat perfect, critical, paused reflection. And our society rewards that impulse and reaction and quick decision making.
So in case it isn't obvious for any of my audience, this is obviously directly referencing what we cover on Flat Earth Debate on a daily basis in terms of the repetition of what we call the globe lie. This repeated religious fanaticism has been instilled in people's mind's eye from birth, therefore requires a minimal amount of energy to simply understand and repeat again, keeping the cycle going. Now, the overall combat to this for us is to share things like our show and get that rhetoric repeated so that the mental energy required to understand implicitly how Earth being measured flat is something that isn't necessarily requiring any thought whatsoever. It just is an as-is statement of truth and fact that requires absolutely no validation whatsoever. It's just a fact of measurement in terms of horizontal distance measurements and lines of scale on a flat map with a 2D directionality in the form of north, south, east and west. All of these axiomatic principles are known by everybody to be true. However, if you can consistently repeat the rhetoric that a horizontal line is actually curving because you have a belief that Earth is curving, and this is repeated ad nausea, you will understand it as being the case, even though it defies an axiomatic principle of measurement, the measurement of Earth and its flatness. Earth is measured flat, and no matter how much people repeat to you that flatness, level and horizontal actually means curve, this is simply a shortcut your brain will take to save energy. In the meantime, the actual axiomatic principles of Earth measurement will always be horizontal and level in order for triangulation, trig, horizontal distance measurement, level flight to be true.
Your brain is constantly predicting what's coming next. If the inputs matches your guesses, your brain gets to spend less energy. Repeated inputs have their own well-worn, well-trodden paths in your brain. That's why it feels safe. Less figuring it out, less brain firing, less cost. Your actual processing of the information is easier if it feels familiar to you. This is useful when you're trying to drive home or you see your friend at a party. We feel like it's a stable judgment because the world shouldn't be changing that much. Your brain is not equipped to deal with this level of change and inconsistency from one second to the next. And when threatened, you will shut down and default to predictions that are easy.
Again, if this sounds familiar, there's a reason. When it comes to familiarity and repetition of a rhetoric that is designed to keep you in a place that isn't real, be it an outer space sky vacuum in the violation of the second law of thermodynamics, that's gas dispersion and entropy, violating the area claimed to be above your head, that would be a sky vacuum. There's a reason why repeating the notion of having a sky vacuum with men floating around in an orbital motion, also derived from flat Earth measurements, is useful. Meanwhile, any change or deviation from this automatically instilled belief that you're on a spherical surface, as opposed to an adherence to the axiomatic principles of measurement of a flat planar surface that is done daily by surveying and people navigating, flying, using boats and making maps, is always going to be the case. So with that, I'll round out and say, please do go along to Ali McForever's channel and let her know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a polite comment that doesn't immediately get removed from her video by the YouTube algorithmic bots or indeed by her personally. So once again, Ali McForever is the name of the channel. Subscribe to her and let her know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me.